The date was September 25th, 1978, when PSA Flight 182, a Boeing 727, took off from Sacramento Airport heading for Lindbergh Field in San Diego, with one stop in Los Angeles at LAX. They departed Los Angeles at 8:34 in the morning, and their final destination was Lindbergh Field, right here in San Diego. At 8:16, 18 minutes before they left Los Angeles, a Cessna 172 departed from Montgomery Field in North San Diego, which was this field right here. The Cessna had two pilots in it, an instructor in the right seat and a licensed pilot receiving instrument training in the left seat. The Cessna made its way down to Lindbergh Field, to the west end of Lindbergh Field, and made what they call ILS approaches. They made two ILS approaches to runway 9, which is this runway right here. An ILS approach is called an Instrument Landing Systems approach. They were actually landing or practice landing using the instruments. The pilot in training had no visual references. He was only allowed to use the instruments. After completing their second approach, they made a left turn and started heading north and east. Air traffic controller told them to go on a heading of 70 degrees, and they acknowledged that. However, the pilot only maintained that 70 degree heading for about 1 minute before he made a right turn and started heading exactly 90 degrees east. Around that same time, Flight 182, coming from Los Angeles, flew right over the top of this vortex, and shortly after passing over the top of it, it started to make a left-hand turn, and it also locked onto a heading of 90 degrees. So the Cessna and the 727 were both heading in this direction at 90 degrees. Air traffic controllers radioed to the pilots of the 727 that there was a small aircraft in their vicinity and they needed to make a visual contact. The pilots radioed back saying that they could see it. As they headed down along the runway here on what they call their downwind approach, which is parallel to the runway in the opposite direction they're going to land. Their goal was to go downwind, make a right turn, go down what they call base leg, make another right turn, and come down on what they call final approach. But things went terribly wrong because they lost sight of the Cessna and they made the assumption that the Cessna was now behind them. And it was right about in here that the Cessna 172 was overtaken by the Boeing 727. Witnesses said they watched the Boeing 727 start to make a right-hand turn, probably turning from downwind, making its right-hand turn onto base leg when the collision occurred. And they said it would have occurred right about in this general area, probably straight up. And the reason I say that is because the Cessna, after it was hit, it pretty much almost came straight down to the ground immediately. And the Cessna crashed to the ground right in front of this house. In fact, right in front of the driveway and the house at this spot right here. So if we go down to street view, you can see that the Cessna came crashing to earth and landed right in the street, right about right here. This is pretty much the exact spot. Now, as you can see on this YouTube video called The Day the Sky Fell, I paused it on this part of the video, and you can see where the Cessna actually crashed into the street. Here's the house that I was telling you about. And if you look, the driveway is here. If you're facing out from the house, it'd be the left side of the driveway, straight out, almost in the middle of the street. So that gives an excellent reference to the exact location where the Cessna came to rest after the midair collision. So the accident would have occurred somewhere up in here, and that Cessna came straight down and landed right here. This is where the bulk of it landed, where the two pilots were, right in front of this property. And then as that happened, the other airplane went up and did a long turn and landed way over there 6 blocks away. Now, after the mid-air collision occurring in this general area here and the Cessna coming to rest in front of this house right here, the Boeing 727 was beginning to make a right-hand turn. So from about this point here, it made this long, gradual right-hand turn out and around, all while losing altitude and coming toward the Earth, and eventually crashing in this exact spot right here on the sidewalk in front of this house's driveway, hit the ground here, and the explosion and debris came through this neighborhood, completely destroyed the structures that were here, came across, did damage to the front of this house, did serious damage to this house, and everything beyond it was completely destroyed, either started with the plane crash and then finished off with the jet fuel burning. So everything here, through here, all through here, and all of this stuff right here, all of these structures right here were totally destroyed. Right after the mid-air collision, there happened to be somebody there with a camera, and he was able to snap 2 photos. The first photo that he snapped was this one here with the plane in that right-hand turn and the right wing on fire. The second photo he snapped is right here, and this is the photo that was taken just milliseconds before it struck the ground. Now, the time between the mid-air collision, which occurred about here, and the time it took for the jet to strike the ground right here was about 17 seconds. And if we go down to street view, right in front of the impact point right here, I'll go forward a little. Wrong driveway. I was in the right spot. Let me back up. You can still see the impact point here on the sidewalk where it's cracked. You can see there's no cracks to the left, or no cracks over here to the right. This driveway is fine, but this part of the sidewalk is cracked, and this driveway is cracked because that is the point where the nose of the airplane hit the ground with its right wing low, and then it went crashing through the structures that were here, damaged this house, did serious damage to this house, and then everything beyond that was pretty much destroyed. So here you can see the structures actually look new compared to the older ones, here and back there. So the damage came all the way through here. There were 135 people killed on the 727. The 2 pilots in the Cessna were killed, and 7 people on the ground here in this neighborhood were also killed. 2 of those 7 were children. Now here was a photo taken shortly after the crash. You can see the initial contact point in front of this house right here in front of its driveway. You can see the debris pattern. The airplane went in this direction, wiped out pretty much this entire neighborhood. Witnesses said as it came down with its right wing low and hit the ground, it began to tumble. And this gives you a pretty good idea of the damage that it caused from an aerial point of view. Now, if you compare that photo with what it looks like today, if I can zoom out, I'm going to go to the other side. So about like this. This is the general direction that photo was taken from. Here's the contact point right here. And the debris field went out through here. So here's the impact point right here. The nose of the plane struck the sidewalk here and went in that direction, completely demolishing these structures and the houses over there. But this house on the corner actually survived. Everything else was devastated. So from here, the accident would have taken place somewhere out over there, and the plane made the right turn, came in, contacted the ground right here. Across the street, you can see the curb, and like I said, these structures here were obliterated all through here. And as you come through, you can still see chips in the concrete. All along the curb. At the time of the accident, this telephone pole was here, and this is a new one they're putting in, but you can still see some of the damage done to this telephone pole right here. It's up through here. So from this telephone pole, you can see the point of impact right there as the plane came around and down through here and then rolled through here and ended up taking out this entire neighborhood. The entire neighborhood was obliterated and the homes were burned down. From the point of impact, these structures were taken out completely. Houses up there were taken out, houses down there, and everything down in that direction. Also, next to this car, you can still see chips in the concrete right here from that horrible day. And you can see them all the way up the curb. In fact, right here in this driveway, you can see a divot right here. A little further down the sidewalk, you can see some more divots right here. That's a pretty big one, pretty deep. And you have that one right there. And from this perspective, the initial impact point was right over there. So from there, around, down, and it all came in this direction. So there you have it, the Flight 182 air disaster that occurred September 25th, 1978 in San Diego, California. The route, the mid-air collision point, and the points on the ground where both airplanes came to rest, right here on Google Earth.